Don't expect the band you work with in a club in Dublin to be the biggest band in the world, carrying like the largest video screen, the most PA, the most sound, the most lights.
I've been with the band since 1979, I suppose, when we all, band, me, Joe, the sound man, travelled in one small Volkswagen minibus with the equipment. Now we have 265 people, 83 trucks, an aeroplane. It's huge, but that's part of the spectacle. You know, I think to mount something this size takes a lot of people.
The touring party of 250 plus crew is divided into departments. As well as the drivers, there are riggers, carpenters, electricians and specialists dedicated to lighting, to sound and to operating the video screen, to security and catering. In addition, each show requires the services of 250 local crew, distinguishable by their coloured t-shirts. They're employed just for the day to help load and unload the equipment. While the result is spectacular, inevitably the costs are phenomenal.
Close to $1 million. For one show, you know, all in costs, and that's an inclusive cost of our costs, the promoters' costs. Financially, we're up there with the fairly large companies, if you want to look at it in those terms. It's a calendar year at the moment, April 97 to April 98, which is a tall order. We have 100 plus shows to do in that time, and when you consider that to mount each show takes 2.5 to 3 days for the universal production, a total of 5 days for the whole operation. The mathematics get pretty tight. It's a moving factory, it's a moving village, it's a moving town, it's all those things.
I was in Sarajevo and I talked to the military and whatnot, and they were quite astounded like that there's an organisation in the world can do the same sort of logistical moves that they do. And we talked to people who work in ferry ports, and they were sort of saying like, how many containers you got? And we say like 40 per system, and they're saying, oh yeah, we'll do the deliveries for that over 4 days. And I'm saying, no, I want the deliveries for that over 2 hours. And we can empty like 40 containers in 4 hours. There's so much going on in the construction of the show that you can never see it. Like if you look behind us now, all the lines are very clean. You see the arch and the video support, like you can see the towers that come up through the stage. The whole system of towers is interlocked from ground level to a metre up in steel RSJs. They're like 11.5 metres long, weighing about 2.5 tonnes a piece. And they all connect to water tanks, which are carrying 2 tons of water per tank. And we have 12 of those, which in turn are locked into concrete blocks, which are 2 ton. So we've about 80 odd tons of ballast alone underneath the stage, just reinforcing the entire structure to give it its structural integrity.
Why do we do this? It's because we're entertainers. And when the entertainer meets the audience, that's what makes sense out of the whole thing. I mean, this structure behind me on its own, standing in a field, is probably indefensible and unexplainable. But tonight, when it's darker and when there's 55,000 people in here, and the reason they've come here appears in front of them, because it isn't this, it's the 4 guys in the band. That whack of emotion is still what gives me my jollies, basically.
This is the screen, 62 feet high, 172 feet wide, and literally millions of LEDs. Each one of these small LEDs combines through computer processing to create the images that are shown throughout the show up on the screen. It's brand new technology that we're still learning from every day, but the end result is the most incredible picture that's ever been created in the world's largest television.
What I'm responsible for is the video for the show, and the job initially was to put together a system and a crew that would be able to do whatever they wanted to do with it, and learn how to work with the LEDs and the new screen and the technology. which we did. And then on a nightly basis, I switch 6 cameras live, as well as bring in and out playback footage or however we program the different song to look.
Don't try too hard to think, don't think at all. I'm not the only one staring at the sun. Afraid of
We learned an awful lot on Zoo TV about, technology and what we can do, and that pushed a certain level of technology pretty far. And on this, it's pushed new technology further. The LED screen is virtually new, and it was very overwhelming at the beginning of the tour to figure it out, because it's got 176 panels in it, I think, and we saw 4 panels up and working before Las Vegas.
And we've had some growing pains with it, as well with any new technology. But the entire screen team has been working extreme hours, like sometimes 48 hours at a time, to try and get it right.
There's a little gap here. Yeah, little gap there. Where the pixel tubes, the electronics in the tubes of the screen have popped out. Yeah. So there's a team of guys continually through the show in their harnesses, dropping down, replacing them as they pop out.
We've been going through design changes on the fly, as it were. Just, we'd see a problem we'd have during a particular show and then try and deal with it. It's quite a clever plan in that the entire wall, which is 62 feet high and 172 feet wide, only draws less than 100 amps of current, whereas a wall 10% of this size used to take about 400 amps of current. So it's new technology that is almost the simplest. It's like we've suddenly discovered the wheel here, and everybody's going, why didn't we think of this before?
There's 3 inputs to the screen. We used to have 4. We've gone down to 3. And so it's basically split up into thirds. And so if I'm putting a single image across the screen, I'm separating that through 6 channels or 3 channels of DVE, depending on the footage. You can either have the direct input to the screen or make it smaller, bigger, whatever you want. We colorize stuff, we posterize stuff. We can put multiple images up, we can put single images up. It really is what works with the song and what works in the show. And we try and build, the same time that the music's building, we try and visually build and kind of flow with the lights and flow with what's happening on stage. I never remember what it is I've done. To be perfectly honest, it goes by so fast. You get into a vibe and you get into a good feeling, and it's all happening and it's great, and so you keep going. And I always watch the tape because I want to see, okay, did that really go as well as I thought, or could it be better, or what's a different angle or whatever, because I'm looking at about 20 monitors on a nightly basis, and so it's hard to keep track of everything that's going on. Since we started in April, we basically started the end of April, and if you would have seen the show then and come out to look at it now, it's a completely different show. And it's only because of what we've learned works on the screen, and just being able to have the time with it and figure it out and try different things. And it's great, because I think if you look at the show in another 3 months, it'll be completely different again.
Welcome to the B stage. Beneath the B stage, which is acrylic, there's hundreds of lights that shine up for various patterns. That lights them up out here, because other than the spotlights, there's no other lights going on. But what we find is that all of the people who are lined up along the barricade here brings them a lot closer to the audience. And it's a cool thing to see, because at most rock shows, everybody's clamoring, trying to get as close as possible. This opens things up a little bit, and allows the band to get a lot closer to a lot more people.
Everyone is saying this is the last big stadium tour, blah, blah, blah. But we'll see, we'll see what happens. There's no point in trying to second guess the future, but I can't see any reason why this couldn't go on indefinitely.
always thought it would get simpler, because if you look at like the video camera was something huge at one point, and you're carrying around a video camera in your hand now that can do anything a TV camera did 15, 20 years ago. But here we seem to have all this wonderful technology, but it takes a lot more structure to make it all happen. It warrants a bigger steel system with much more base detail. Plus the fact that like not only the technological end of it, but the engineering end of it, we have to like fulfill all requirements in terms of wind loading and local requirements and how it has to be built and what the structure has to be and the DIN codes necessary to make that all happen.
The technology is changing so quickly. I mean, there are around us sound experiments with little cards that members of the audience will have in their pocket and earphones in their ears, so that there's a perfect sound delivered to each seat, which theoretically will do away with big orange balls like this. The lighting world has changed. We were joking last night about how little focusing lighting crew have to do anymore. They take it out of the truck, they hang it up, they press a button on a front of house desk, and everything goes zip, and it's focused. The screen technology we have here behind us, while it's huge and at the moment labour intensive because it's new and because we've invented it and created it, but it's still 5 feet less deep than the screens we used 4 years ago. So I don't know where it's going to go. Digital TV will change all this. In theory, we can broadcast this show via satellite anywhere in the world. Are we heading for a day when people won't come to shows, they watch them at home? Will we be putting on studio shows only? I really don't know. Where do we go for the answer? I think you have to go back to the artists. You have to go back to Mick Jagger, and you have to go back to Bono, and you have to go back to the people who really drive this.
I mean, what's great is you're always trying to do things which are only just possible. I mean, 5 years ago we did Zoo TV, which was completely groundbreaking, and you could probably buy the stuff in Radio Shack today, you know. And this is the biggest video screen on Earth. And 5 years from now, this would probably be easy to do, but there'd be no point in doing it because teenagers in college will be doing it. So that's always the challenge, and you always think you've reached the limit, but no, we'll be around.
Small boxes into the big boxes and drive them to the next place. And over the next 3 days, I go to London, Steve has already gone to Ireland, and Nick goes to Helsinki.
We scatter around the universe.
Who are you going to follow?